Now. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm from the IGAN Foundation of America, and every Friday during Donate Life Month, I'll be interviewing a living kidney donor, and they'll be sharing their experience through this process. Today, we'll be speaking with Glenn Miller from California. He is the direct living donor of a patient I interviewed earlier this month named Mike Atkins. So we're looking forward to hearing Glenn's side of the transplant story from his side. Hey, Glenn, thank you so much for giving me a few minutes, and feel free to kind of go dig into your side of the story as to what you knew about transplant and kidney organ donation when you started this.
Well, thank you for having me, Alex. Good morning, and I appreciate what you're doing for kidney donation. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks.
So for me, it started really about 3 years before the transplant took place, because I had looked into kidney donation not having anybody in mind previously. And at that time, surgery was incredibly invasive, and they told me that it would take, my recovery might be 2 months before I could even go back to work. So I kind of put it aside because I just couldn't take that kind of time off work at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is no longer, I should assure people, it's no longer as evasive as it used to be. So about 3 years ago, I'm sitting in a hot springs in Iceland, and my friends are talking about a good friend of theirs named Heather Cantor who needs a kidney. And Heather's an amazing woman. She's an ex-firefighter who lost use of her kidneys on the job, got a new kidney, and that lasted, I think it was 8 years. It failed, and now she was in the process of looking for a new kidney. Mm-hmm. So that night I got back to my hotel room, and I sent her a note that said, "Heather, you don't know me, but my friends love you, and I love my friends. Therefore, I must love you. I just haven't met you yet." So the transitive property of love is.
I like it. Yeah.
And I said, "Would you be interested in my kidney?" And not the best pickup line in the bar, I can assure you for that. But
sure.
And she was obviously very happy about that. So we went and did the testing, and it turned out I'm a really good donor, and we were actually a match.
Mm-hmm.
But we did something called the pre-surgery rejection test, and it showed that she had more than a 50% chance of rejecting my kidney. And so they won't do the transplant. So then they said, "Well, would you like to be in the kidney pool?"
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, "Sure, what's that?" I don't know, I grew up in the 60s, a kidney pool was something in your backyard, And they said, "No, what it is we put you in this giant pool of people, and we match you up with different people. So you might give your kidney to somebody, but Heather will get a kidney from somebody else." Mm-hmm. And we said, "Sure, we'll go into the kidney pool." And so then they put us in the kidney pool, and that started the whole process.
Got it. Okay, great. So when you had mentioned it was 3 years ago, you were in Iceland. So this is a question I ask most living donors, and I think I know the answer, but I ask it anyways. Did you have any second thoughts, of wanting to donate? Were there any repercussion, thinking that you're like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that," or do you feel like, it was the right thing to do?
I had second thoughts about donating my other kidney. That seemed a little far.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah.
But the first kidney, not in the least, Alex. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few body parts that is literally a duplicate that you don't need.
Right.
I think there's one other rare exception, but mm-hmm. you don't really use it. And no, none whatsoever. Fast forwarding, I've had no ill effects. I don't even notice it's gone, other than, making a great friend in Mike Atkinson and Heather
Sure,
Campbell,
yeah.
Other people that are involved, but absolutely none. And it's far easier than one would think. Mm-hmm. From the time they took out my kidney to the time that I would say I was at 100% recovery, mm-hmm. 3 weeks.
Wow.
I was back at work
mm-hmm.
3 days later.
Right.
Now, I will say this. I had my kidney taken out on December 29th. Mm-hmm. And I had a flight on the 31st to make it to a New Year's Eve party.
Okay.
I didn't make that party. Okay, I was a little optimistic. But I was back at work on the second or third.
Right.
Job. So
right.
It was a week later.
Hmm.
So no regrets whatsoever. I believe anybody can do this who wants to, assuming
Sure.
they're in good health.
Okay. Um, any surprises that most surprised you when you donated, that either leading up to it or even afterwards, that you just kind of just caught you off guard in a good way or a negative way, just kind of as you've been doing? You kind of alluded to it a little bit, but anything?
The biggest surprise was what happened with people's lives. So I
Mm,
thought I'd give to Heather, she'd get my kidney and everything would be great. But that's
sure.
not what happened.
Right.
What happened was they threw us into the kidney pool and they started matching us up. And they were able to find uh, matches for Heather actually pretty easily.
Okay.
But every time somebody went to match with me, they then rejected my kidney. And
Ah,
it happened 4 or 5 or 6 times where I got rejected. I felt like I was at a junior high school dance. It was not good.
right.
And,
Yeah.
and then um, enter a woman named Breland Horn, who is just another remarkable woman. You've
Mhm.
got Heather, who is this ex-firefighter who
Sure.
saved people's lives.
Right.
And then you've got this woman, Breland Horn, who wanted to give a kidney in dedication to a very close cousin of hers
Mhm.
named Amy, who unfortunately passed away due to cystic fibrosis.
Sure.
But because of the care she had been given, Breland wanted to give a kidney. So she walks into a center at 18 years old and says, I'd like to donate a kidney. And they actually made her come back 3 times until she was older. And she just kept persisting.
Wow.
So they finally said, okay, we're not getting rid of her. We're going to let her give. And the reason they were trying to get rid of her, by the way, is there's a belief that you've got to be old enough to make this decision. And the question
Sure.
was, is an 18-year-old old enough to say, I
Yeah.
want to do this?
Exactly.
So they matched her up with Heather, and it turned out that they were just perfect match, or
Mhm.
almost perfect. They were like sisters.
Yeah.
But they still needed to find me a match. They can't give Heather a kidney until
Yeah.
they can find somebody for me. And I got rejected 2, 3 more times. I
Mhm.
mean, I was starting to take this personally.
Yeah.
So at some point, they said, you know what? These two, Heather and Breland, are such a perfect match that we're going to do that um, surgery, and then we're going to wait for a person for Glenn, and
Mhm.
Glenn owes us a kidney. Now, I've been in debt before, some financial stuff. I've never actually owed somebody a body part. So I did for about 3 months.
Sure.
And then in December, about 3 months after this surgery, they called me and they said, we found the perfect match for you. And I said, yeah, I've heard this before. No, he's passed the pre-surgery rejection test. Woo!
Wow. That's
Awesome.
something. Yeah. 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 Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said his name. They didn't tell me his name. They wouldn't tell us at all. And
Mhm.
they, so we went to surgery, and we've been trying to meet each other, and they would not allow us to meet. And we finally, a nurse came up. It was 5 minutes before surgery, and a nurse came up and they said, "Would you like to meet your donor?"
Hmm.
And I said, or your recipient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. She said, "Let me check with him." So she goes, she comes back, she says, "He'd like to meet you too." Now
Mhm.
she breaks all rules, and she
Right.
got in trouble for this. And
Yeah.
why, I don't know, and I don't like the hospital policy on this. I have very strong opinions on this,
Sure.
but she helped us meet, and
Mhm.
I walked in, and I met Mike, and I met his wife, and his pastor was there, and we really hit it off. And so what's happened? You asked me, and I can tell you more of that story in a second if you'd like to
Sure.
hear it. But
Yeah.
the question you asked was, what was the big surprise? And here was the big surprise. Breland met Heather before the surgery accidentally. There was a mistake made where a mail was sent to the wrong person, and they
Wow.
found each other on Facebook. This
Sure.
is not supposed to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody sent the wrong mail to Breland, and Breland looked up Heather on Facebook and found her.
Mhm.
I was not supposed to meet Mike. We met and we hit it off like we're, twin sons of a different mother.
Yeah.
Um, and then he has his donor, of course, or the person who was supposed to give to him, Emery Fuqua. They're very close. So what's happened, and the big surprise is we've created sort of what I like to call, or what other people have called, the chain of love.
Mhm.
Mike and I have become very close. Heather and I had never known each other, even though we'd shared friends.
Yeah.
We're now very close. And there's this amazing connection of people who have shared body parts and a shared experience that is one of the most unique things. So the big surprise for me, I thought it'd be simple: give a kidney, get a kidney, little 7-Eleven dish there,
Yeah.
and go on your way. And what turned out was life-changing for all of us, not just the people receiving, but also the people giving.
It's a great story, and when I read it about it, I mean, I was just floored. I mean, I'm a 13-year kidney transplant recipient from a direct donor, so mine is more the original story, like you kind of mentioned. Like, I had a living donor who I met, a lady from church. We've have had conversations. She tested, we matched, and here I am, 13 years later, still doing it. Still have it, and she and I still have a relationship, and still kind of meet every year around this transplant date because it's here in the city, here in Kentucky. So yeah, I mean, both stories, mine and yours, are still just amazing. I mean, just the gift of life in general. But to see the outpouring of love from your all's perspectives, from that chain as big as it's gotten, I mean, that's that gives me hope in humanity. That gives me, especially in the climate we're in right now. I mean, it's been there are good people in this world, and this story illustrates it so much, so well, so well.
My only regret, you asked me with regret,
Yeah.
on the day they took out my kidney and they gave it to Mike,
Uh-huh.
they took out Emery's kidney. Remember, that was the
Yep.
donor that was supposed to give to him.
Yeah.
She couldn't because her kidney's too small for Mike. Mike's
Sure.
big guy.
Okay.
Um, and they took her kidney out and they sent it to Colorado.
Okay.
I'm like, that kidney, they did surgery in Colorado, took out the kidney from that donor pair, and I believe it went to Michigan. They
Mhm.
took out the kidney from that donor pair, and I believe it went to Georgia. And
Mm.
that's where we lost track of it. And again, it goes back to this hospital policy that I think is ridiculous. They
Yeah.
won't tell us where else it went.
Mm.
However, when we talk about this chain of love of 5 people,
Right.
it could be hundreds at this point. And
Oh,
I'd
yeah.
love to know, they sort of cut it off for us, but I'd love to know, how long is this chain? Because it probably goes on it goes on
Infinitely.
forever.
Yeah, right.
And that in itself is an amazing story right there. And I just wish I knew.
Mhm, mhm. No, I totally, yeah, hear you on that one. Yeah, you guys' story is just phenomenal. I mean, it just really is. Um, so when you were getting ready to do your donation to your initial person, um, what uh, what did your friends and family have to say? What were their thoughts? Were they like, go for it, or did they have their apprehensions at all?
It's funny you should say that. So the first thing I did was I called my daughter and I called my brother,
Mhm.
and I said, do you have any problems with your kidneys? Have you ever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because let's face it, you can only give one, right? And
Exactly.
I, if I'm a giving person, but if I ever thought either my daughter or my brother was going to need a kidney, there's no way I'm giving up one.
Of course, of course.
But they both are incredibly healthy, and
Mhm.
we have no history of kidney disease in our family.
Well, there you go.
So they thought it was both a great idea.
Mhm.
So I guess I got full support from anybody. No one really told me that not to do it.
Nice.
So I mean, and personally, I had no reason not to do it. It just seemed like a really good, easy thing to do.
Sure, 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 yeah. So I don't know how up to date you are with like statistics about living donation and kidney donation, but things I've read and things I've seen in the space of organ donation is that it's slowing down. That our wait list to get a kidney in Kentucky, for example, for a deceased donor is about 5 to 10, is about 3 to 5 years. I'm not sure what it is out in California, but we're also seeing a dip in living donation, right? So like, do you have any inkling or like opinion as to why you think living donation is kind of slowing down and not happening at a better pace because of our, any suggestions on that?
I can't tell you why it's slowing down, but I certainly have an opinion about it. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
Right.
First of all, it was incredibly easy.
Right.
Um, like I said, I was 56 or 57 at the time,
Hmm.
56, I think,
Hmm.
and I went from surgery to 100% full recovery in 3 weeks,
Yeah.
back to work in 1 week.
Yeah.
Not that difficult.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's they didn't even sew me up. They glued me shut after they took the kidney.
Yeah.
They put 3 holes in. You can't really see because I'm on camera, but they
Sure.
put
Sure.
3 little holes in my left-hand side. They did
Yep.
laparoscopic surgery.
Mhm.
They put a scar that looks like a cesarean scar.
Right.
So I look like I had a cesarean, which is a little weird, but and you can barely see that scar anymore
TLD.
because they use glue again instead
Yeah.
of super
Yeah.
glue you shut now. They don't bother even sewing you. It's crazy. Modern medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So you can't even see that scar anymore. So, in fact, Breland, who's very, very young and gave, she posted a picture of her in a bikini like 2 months later.
Yeah.
You couldn't see a scar.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's not very evasive. They go around the muscle. It's fantastic,
It is.
and you don't need that second kidney. The only thing that that changes is they told me I can't have ibuprofen the rest of my life
Yep.
because apparently that's the only thing that you use 2 kidneys for at the same time is when you take ibuprofen on a regular basis. So
Right.
so no, I don't know why it's slowed down. It's
Yeah.
very easy. I encourage people to do it. I'll talk to anybody who wants to do it. Oh, here's one thing I should mention, and
Sure.
this really bothers me. I've talked to a number of people who were looking for kidneys,
Mhm.
and they said I can't find a match.
Hmm.
I don't have friends or relatives that are a match. And I said, well, do you have a friend or relative who's willing to give? Oh, absolutely. They're just not a match. Are you aware of the kidney pool?
Yeah.
No, never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That bothers me. There are doctors, there are hospitals not telling people about the kidney pool.
Mhm.
I'm assuming they're doing it for a reason. Maybe they're not aware of it. But there is a national kidney pool.
Mhm.
And we're a great illustration of this.
Yeah.
Mike has my kidney. We
Right.
never met
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
literally 5 minutes before he got my kidney. And now
Yeah.
we're great friends. We happen to live in the same city. We didn't at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I gave, I was in San Francisco. He
Mhm.
was in San Diego.
Got it.
We moved down to San Diego, and now we live, 20 minutes apart,
That's
which is
awesome.
kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But this kidney pool allows anybody to give. So for people out there looking, they should be finding someone willing to donate and then join the kidney pool.
Exactly.
And that would reduce the list dramatically.
Mhm.
The other thing I want to say is Heather had been looking for about a year,
Mhm.
maybe more actually, when I heard about it, when I'm sitting in this hot springs in Iceland and I heard about her. And I was talking to her after I wrote her and we talked about it. I said, how come I haven't heard of you? We're sort of in the same circles. And, I didn't see anything posted on Facebook. And she's like, well, I don't really tell too many people and I don't really ask. It's kind of embarrassing. No, it's not.
No. Yeah. People.
Or it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I said to her.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. A lot of people.
I think
It's
sometimes people are afraid to ask.
exactly.
And
There.
it's not like you're saying, hey, I'm broke, give me, can you loan me some money? Okay, then maybe that's a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
This is a life.
Yeah.
And it's a body part that we don't need.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think part of it is, and by the way, as soon as she started posting after she met me,
Yeah.
3 other people came out of the woodwork. I happened to
Wow.
be, yeah, 3 other people of her friends came out and said, I'll give, sure. I didn't even know you were looking.
Yeah, yeah. Some people, I think it becomes a pride thing. I think there's that nervousness. So what I do, I work for the University of Kentucky's transplant program full time as an advocate, and I travel to talk to patients and families about kidney transplant and kind of what that process is like. And so a lot of times when I meet patients and their caregivers, there's a lot of resistance about wanting to kind of share, wanting to get a kidney. They're like, oh, especially if they're too old. They're like, I don't want to give a kidney, or I, don't want one because I just would rather. They don't want to feel like they're a burden. This is a big thing I hear a lot about people saying. So my job is to kind of like meet them where they are, kind of be like, okay, I hear you, and then when I see them, and a lot of times it's repeat people, so I see them again like 3 months later just to check in to see where they are. But yeah, you get a lot of folks who are in different stages of their readiness, and when they either both to donate and also wanting to receive, because obviously, if you can find a champion, if you if, for example, for me, if I didn't feel comfortable enough to ask people, I would look for a champion. I'd look for my spouse, or I'd look for somebody who would be able to willingly speak up for me as a recipient. But I mean, I spoke up for myself and was fine and had help. So it's a little different, but I would encourage folks. I always encourage folks to find a champion, find somebody who you love and trust, who'd be willing to step up for you and say, hey, Alex needs a kidney, what do you know about it? What do you want to know? We can help you answer any questions. And then kind of, hopefully maybe pique their interest and then kind of go from there. But yeah, it varies from person to person, of course. And so I can see why people are a little apprehensive, but at the same time, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, find somebody else who would help you with it. And then that works from there.
And I encourage anybody to do it. It's, if you're healthy, it's not difficult.
Right.
And
Yeah.
not healthy, I mean, they put me through a battery of tests. They put me through a full day of both physiological and psychological testing to determine. So if you're not a good candidate, they're not going to let you do it anyway.
Exactly.
If
Yeah.
they say you can do it, then it's easy as pie. And I remember, I went through all the physical tests.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got in front of the psychiatrist. You have to get in front of a psychiatrist to do this, because apparently you'd have to be crazy to give up a body part. And so they want you to explain why you're doing this, and you're doing it for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And they said, Glenn, you're a great candidate and you're in perfect health, but we have a concern. I said, oh, what's your concern? Talk to me. And they said, well, you're not taking this seriously enough. And I said, well, it's because it's no big deal. Yeah. And they said, no, it's a very big deal. I said, I don't think it's that big a deal. They're like, well, that's why we're concerned. We're not sure we want you to give. Mm-hmm. So I looked at the guy, the psychiatrist, and I said, well, and I named off all the potential risks.
Yeah, right.
I have a 1 in 3,000 chance of dying on the operating room table, which, by the way, is the same as any other surgery.
Yeah, right.
I can't take ibuprofen the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. If I ever need a kidney, I've got to go to the top of the list, but it's kind of a problem. Right. If a family member ever needs a kidney, they don't go to the top of the list. Mm-hmm. And that's something the law should be changed. But that's one thing I made sure that no one in my family would need a kidney.
Yeah, right.
So I named all these things, and he looks at me and goes, okay, you get it. We're going to let you give. But it really, I truly believe this, Alex. Mm-hmm. If you're in good health, it's not that big a deal. And I will tell you this, the reward you get from this is greater than any reward you will ever give. I have a lifelong friendship with Mike because of it.
Yeah.
I have a great relationship with Heather because of it. Mm-hmm. I've got people who have just, they just think it's a wonderful thing. So I get kind of accolades over it. Not that that's why I did it, but it's kind of fun. My girlfriend, who I've been in a long-term relationship with, we met kind of on a blind date, and she Googled me and she found the story.
Wow.
And literally, that's one of the reasons she agreed to go out with me, that she found the story.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I got my life partner because of giving a kidney.
There you go. Right. Exactly. Indirectly.
So I would encourage anybody to do this. And it's not difficult.
Well, you just answered my last question. What would you tell somebody who's thinking about becoming a living donor? You just answered it. But if you want to add anything else, feel free. That's our last question for the day.
Well, I do. So if anybody who listens to this should listen to Mike's story, to Mike Atkinson's story first, because he takes you through the whole chain of love. Yeah. But he left out one part that I think is a great story. So Mike and I had been trying to meet before the surgery, and they would not let us meet, right? Because this is Scripps policy and they should change it. So as I mentioned, 5 minutes before surgery, we get to meet. The nurse says, hey, you want to meet your donor? Sure, love to meet my donor. Or my recipient said to him, meet a donor. So I walk in, and there's Mike. And Mike is wearing a beanie that says blessed on it. And he's with his pastor, and he's with his wife. And he says, he's like, we want to thank the Lord for you being here. God has just blessed us with you being here. And we're just so grateful. And, I was kind of taken aback to that. And, Mike's a religious guy. So anyway, they wheel me into surgery. They take out my kidney. I go back into my room and I get on Facebook because, that's the first thing you do after major surgery, right? We're all like that. And I posted, I said, surgery went really well. I'm feeling fine. It's probably the morphine button that I keep pressing, but I'm feeling great. I met my donor. He's a really good guy. We hit it off. And I mentioned, he's wearing the hat that says blessed. He's with his pastor. He's a very religious guy. I probably shouldn't tell him he's getting an atheist kidney. So I post this on Facebook. So the next day, I walk down to Mike's room because now we know each other, and I sit down and we start talking. We talk for about 3 hours. We just hit it off. We're twin sons of a different mother.
Right.
We're born 6 months apart. We're in the same industry. I mean, it was a little crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. So we hit it off, and at the end of the conversation, he says, "Would you like to connect by Facebook?" And I said, "Sure, love to do that." So we connect by Facebook, and I get back to my room, and I'm looking on Facebook, and I notice that Mike is liking a bunch of my old posts. He's going through some old posts and is liking them. And then it hits me. Oh my, I need to change. So I look at the post I just made,
Yeah.
and Mike hasn't commented on it yet. I'm like, oh God, thank you. I don't want to offend the guy, right? So I quickly I leave the whole post about being a great guy, but I take out the line that says, I probably shouldn't tell him he's getting an atheist kidney. 30 seconds later, a comment from Mike appears, and all it says is, "Atheist no more." Mike and I have been great friends ever since. We have the same sense of humor.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, Glenn, thank you so much. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more and getting to hear your story. If anyone has any other, questions or wants to know more, feel free to watch our other videos and reach out to us. And that's what we got going on today. Glenn, I appreciate it very much. And we will sign off from here.
Great to be here, Alex. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.